Welcome to Library Grindhouse. The only thing you need is your library card. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Leah, and today we'll be reviewing the 1984 cult classic, Children of the Corn, which is based on Stephen King's 1977 short story.
For those of you who read Penthouse for the short stories and articles back in the 70s, am I right? Anyway, it's also in his Night Shift collection if you want to read it in a more legitimate format. I mean, I don't know. To each their own. But anyway, so this thing has so many sequels and reboots and remakes and whatever that I'm really surprised they haven't even lucked into anything that seems to be as anywhere near as compelling as this film, which wasn't and isn't even considered much of a success. I think it was a rental hit, but...
Yeah, I've seen it everywhere when I was younger. Like, I do remember the cover art, the menacing scythe hanging over everyone, blood red backdrop, and I feel like the cover is far scarier than the movie itself.
But see, like, when I was growing up in yieldy 80s, they used to play movies like this on broadcast TV, like NBC, ABC, CBS. Like on Saturday afternoon, I could sit down and watch Children of the Corn at the comfort of my own living room at the age of 8 or 9 and see a child resurrected from the dead, looking zombified, and was talking such a creepy voice. Malachi, what you do, Malachi? I mean, when you're 8 or 9, like that just like is seared into my brain of just...
That kid has a creepy voice no matter what, zombified or not. Creepy little kid.
Right, but when you're like, but again, like, my kid's age, I could not imagine what would happen to my kid if she watched this movie at her age right now. Like, she would not be okay. Like we are talking serious therapy bills. I do not know how I saw this at that age and like wound up anywhere near as well just as I hope I am. But anyway, so I saw this at a formative age. Leah, you did not. This is the first time. So that obviously doesn't help. Well, and you're seeing it in high definition too. I saw it in broadcast standard, which covers a lot of sins.
Yeah, you can definitely see, like, when I watched it a few days ago, you can see the makeup still. Like, high def sometimes completely ruins these older movies.
True,
it makes them look far just cheesier and cheaper. I mean, yes, they were done cheaply. I'm not saying that, but it just kind of ruins all of the effects.
That's
and then,
fair.
Of course, watching it when I'm older, obviously I don't get as scared as easily, somewhat. Please don't scare me. I karate chop people when I get scared. But,
fair.
But yeah, so I didn't have that little kid, like, horror, or even a teenager, that unsettled, like, horror feeling, I guess, you know? So it did kind of come off a little cheap to me.
And speaking of cheap, I mean, this is a New World Pictures co-production, which means Roger Corman, which means cheap. Now, granted, I think it was a co-production, so I don't know if he bought the rights for distribution or whatever, but still, not a lot of money involved in making this movie. So we're in the lovely town of Gatlin, speaking of Gatlin, and we started the Sunday service letting out, and there's a sermon about the corn drought. So apparently, corn is not growing well. Obviously, in a place where livelihoods are farming, that's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And so the main kid in the movie, Joe, we find out later, is narrating the story, and having a kid narrate is risky. He's no Morgan Freeman, so we run into that issue. But
especially right off the bat, it kind of does add a little creepy layer when you find out what's coming. So it's like this little innocent kid. It kind of sounds, I know it's, close to Christmas time. It's the winter. You see this like little kid like, beep, 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 beep. I was thinking, this is going to be a nice, lovely little start of the story. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, I know. Because so he and his dad go to this diner, and his dad has to make a phone call. And there's lots of significant like looks and whatever, and
That's when I saw Malachi and the others. I guess their meeting with Isaac was over.
He and his sister, who's home with a fever, are the only ones not out in the corn with a boy named Isaac. But now kids are there, and they're giving each other very significant looks. We see the creepiest kid looking through the window. We find out later that that's Isaac. And lots of close-ups on the coffee. Because basically the coffee's poisoned, and so anyone drinking the coffee drops dead into their food. And then his dad is hacked to death with farming implements. So you are poisoned, you are killed with farming implements. And
this kid is surprisingly just like, woo!
As blood splatters onto his face from dad getting his head chopped off.
Exactly. I feel like I'd be screaming, but he's just like, what?
Yeah, he's not the world's greatest child actor, but he's a kid. What are you going to do? And it wasn't like they were gonna like literally like, see this, like this is what is happening to you. Pretend this is your dad. Like,
well, I thought that they were gonna kill him first because he wasn't in on it.
because he doesn't, because he wasn't with them. And, and we next to his sister Sarah, who's convalescing in the bed, as we hear essentially probably her mom being murdered by other kids, I think downstairs.
Yeah, so then
you see her pictures, her crayon drawings.
You start to get the feeling that something sinister is going on.
Yeah, what's happening in the cafe is happening all over town. Is essentially the vibe you get. But we see her creepy drawings of corn and knives and slaughter. We see someone on a crucifix in the corn. Like it's wild.
Which is so creepy when it's done by a child.
Absolutely,
like, crayon creepy blood drawings are never a good sign.
No.
If you find them, run away. Go the other way.
Or seek counseling for the child, that kind of thing.
But I mean, if you don't know the child,
if you don't know the child, yes, do not hang out with said child necessarily. If they're only drawing, I guess that might not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Drawing is fine, but.
And then we get. Birthday skitter!
I would be so mad if I was woken up that way.
That's fair, especially if it's your birthday. Yes, that's not how you usually want to sleep in on your birthday.
It's just hard to say, let me sleep in, let me have my peace.
Yeah, maybe some breakfast, something.
Yeah,
not a birthday blower thing. Yeah, that's not great. And they're not married, but they seem to love and be in love with each other, which isn't the worst thing in the world, Leah. Anyway,
we will get to that later.
Get to that. We get Linda Hamilton karaoke.
No more books and studies. Now I can stay out late with my buddies. I can do the things that I want to do. 'Cause all my exams are through.
Which is a fun bonus for the movie. I think that's what got her Terminator. I think Jim Cameron saw this and was like, not only am I going to cast her in Terminator, but one day I'm going to marry that woman and be divorced from her. But anyway,
get divorced from her.
Sorry.
I thought that it was kind of a nice nod that they didn't do just the typical birthday song, too. I thought that was just a nice little.
That she riffed on him graduating from medical school.
Yeah.
We're singing the information. We're not just showing the information, like showing his degree. I'm going to do a whole song and dance, letting the audience, this is for you, so my man's a doctor.
He just graduated. Yeah, we're good.
I love that. I didn't even think about it that way. Of just instead of just being like, man, good thing you just graduated med school. It's like, no, I'm doing a song and dance, tap dance right here for you, the audience. Just for you, baby.
I thought that was a nice touch. That was a nice touch. And it adds to the story too. You know what I mean? And then she gives him a lighter, a engraved lighter that says his name, MD, which was sort of a moot point, but whatever.
Yeah,
it's
gilding the lily. I don't know. Yeah, you think the lighter, it's Chekhov's lighter, right? That should come back. I didn't even think about it, but I don't think it does.
I don't remember it. So
I mean, if it does, let us know. But anyway, in the comments or whatever. But we only have a copy of Night Shift on the dashboard in their car.
Which is a nice touch.
Which is a nice touch, which I was kind of bummed because it was like Linda Hamilton did try to get him to just hang out in the hotel room. She was like, come on, guys. Just hang out in the hotel room. Have a nice birthday.
Read Night Shift. Know your fate. Run away.
That's right, yeah.
That's all you had to do.
And it's the eyeball cover of Night Shift, which was awesome. I always wanted to make a little dollar baby of that thing. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. You look up dollar babies. There's a whole Wikipedia article on it. But yeah, that great stuff. Anyway, they have a super mild argument in the car, which is a nice hint to the short story, which is all them arguing. But again, we'll get there. But and I know it was an argument, it was a tiff. I get it.
It was a tiff.
I get it. I was not. So then we cut to back to Gatlin and the kids, and we see 3 kids, and it took me a second to realize that that's Joe and his sister Sarah, along with another kid, Joseph. And so Joseph's basically telling them to be careful, and we find out that crayons drawings are forbidden. And
same with record player, anything fun is just ixnayed.
Yeah, if it's a good time, they don't do it in Gatlin.
Yeah.
And he advised Joe and Sarah to be careful, and so Joseph's gonna run away. And then the kids are just like,
Okay, go! Nobody's looking!
Joseph, coast is clear! Time to run! And it's just like, if you want to get away safely, be quieter about it, like hand signals,
I
like
know,
gestures, like
flashlight,
something,
not
you know, like
yell.
yeah, it's crazy. So obviously we see lots of close-ups of a kid in the corn. We don't see his face or anything yet. We see him pull out like this giant monster knife, and Joseph is killed in the corn. Which, whoa, we got child murder happening here.
Yeah.
That's
Real
pretty
fast.
wild.
In like the first 10 minutes or so.
Yeah,
Like, oh.
a literal child is slaughtered.
But you don't see any of that.
I mean, I see blood splatter on the corn.
Yeah.
Which again, it's just like what?
But you don't like see the child being slaughtered. He is. I'm not saying that, but you know.
No,
what
I
mean.
know,
It's
but
not
that's
very graphic.
still.
Well, blood is graphic, but
Again, I'm not showing my kid this movie.
No,
I mean,
yes, yes.
Great. Even the TV edit, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so we come back to Bert and Vicky, and Gallon does not seem to be on the map anywhere, which is kind of weird. I get the idea that this, like in the short story, we're not talking about it too much, but we got the idea that this was like a decade had passed or so.
yeah.
In that short story, excuse me, where whereas in this movie, it's like, wait, what happened to where this isn't even on the map? Unless
Yeah.
they have a certain
They
map
have a
that
new
just
updated map. That
maybe, but it's weird. Then looking at the map, they hit Joseph's propped up body while looking at the map, which I thought the body was propped up, but you said it seemed like
I
he's
thought that
moving.
he like ran out, like he was still alive, and he ran out because he was holding his throat, and we know that.
It's the only way that would
slit.
work, because the fact that it's like a mile of straight road, you would have seen, like, before you looked at the map,
Yeah.
you would have seen something
And
there.
I feel like they like barely glanced down, like well, not barely. They were both like, so what? Where is it? Where are we at? Boom.
But the amount of blood splatter on the corn just led me to believe that there's just no way this kid even would have made it to the road.
It depends on, but he seemed to be fairly close into the road because when it happened, because Bert goes into the corn, he doesn't go in too deep,
I guess that's true.
So
I don't know.
which is kind of sad because then it's just like, Joseph, you were right there.
I
Like
know.
you were right by the road and there would have been a car passing too. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you could have gotten away.
So
It's
close
really
as yet
sad.
so far.
Really
Yeah.
sad.
So they obviously stop and
They end up hitting him.
They hit the kid, yeah.
They end up hitting the kid and they think that they killed this child.
For the moment.
For the
yes,
moment, yes.
So Bert has a bad feeling about things, so he locks the car, has Vicky stay in the car. He grabs a tire, and I'm like, man, good for you, dude. Like,
Congratulations.
usually in these movies, you're just a doggone idiot, just like, here, kitty,
I've got a bad
where
feeling
you
about
at?
this.
I'm gonna go wander around with the whole door on, and I assume someone's behind me, but I'm not going to look, because why would I bother doing that? But anyway, so it's very exciting to see this guy's proactive. He thinks maybe something's going on. This is not normal. And then Linda Hamilton like closes her eyes for some reason, like I'm just going to chill out.
Well, she hit her head, and you think.
Oh yeah, I
you'd be
forgot
like,
she did hit her head on the dash because this is pre-airbag.
Well,
like,
and of course he goes, "Let me look at you," because he's a doctor.
and he cares about her,
I'm a
which I know
doctor.
is the worst thing in the world. I get that it's terrible that Bert cares for Vicky in this movie, and like, are you okay? Like, I need to make sure you're not
But
concussed.
they hit a child. His first thing isn't run towards a child. It's let me make sure your head is okay.
He loves the woman. Like, give him a break. I know that it's just, again, worst thing in the world. But anyway, so she closes her eyes, which again you should do if you just hit your head. And then
Some doctor.
yeah,
caring
and
about her.
then she gets out of the car for whatever reason. As Bert goes in the corner, finds a suitcase that the kid had left there.
Well, she gets out of the car because she can't find Bert.
Oh, that's true.
She's trying
Yes.
to be like, Bert, where are you?
Bert, where are you?
And she's walking around.
You
She's
see the kid with a
spinning
knife by the
around.
car, and
And I was like, she's spinning around looking towards the car. How does she not see this like 6 foot tall, bright red haired boy carrying a long knife? And you see the shadow on the car, so you think he'd be like out in the open. This
I
pretty
know.
Big shadow.
and the kid jumps up and she jumps away. And it's, oh, it's just a dream,
It
of course.
was a dream.
Doggone it, they had to go there. I guess this gave that movie an extra few minutes, but anyway.
And then we see Bert, waking her up, kind of bringing her back, saying that they're both feeling like something's not right, essentially.
Right. And
You get that sense of unease and that somebody's watching you.
yeah, so they put Joseph's body in the trunk and they drive over to watch from the corn, which again, they were definitely being watched
Yes.
in that case. I don't know whether Malcolm actually came out of the corn or not.
Yeah, we don't know when her
Don't we
dream
see him
started.
looking at her? Like, isn't that part of the thing?
Yeah, like he's
she's-
looking away from the corn, and then he slowly comes up to the car, and you like see his knife,
Right.
that's when I'm feeling. Well, he did have a knife because he slit Joseph's throat.
I'm
So
remembering by the car, it was a different knife. It was
Yeah.
a shorter, like chunkier, like
Well, I
look
didn't
homemade like knife or
yeah, and
something
I
weird like
didn't
that.
see
Like
any Well, no, that happened. The corn husk knife was in the church.
Oh, never mind. Okay, I'm sorry. The blade I thought was different than his super long.
But you don't see any blood on it or anything, so that's why I'm like, maybe that was her dream, was him coming up to the
very
car.
fastidious about that knife, though.
Yeah, yes.
But anyway, yeah. So, but they drive off, and we come back to Joseph and Sarah, who are Job and Sarah, who are playing Monopoly, and they each say they want all the money in the world, which I love kids with realistic goals. Don't you? It's great. It's good stuff.
My favorite part of that is how they're like, we're going to put Isaac in jail. Or did they say Isaac or Malachi? I forget which one.
Isaac or Malachi?
Or,
I think it was Malachi, because then it's like, then Malachi shows up, and you're like, oh, damn!
Put him in jail. Well, what if he gets a get out of jail free card? And he like throws all the cards. You can tell that they're having fun. Like they're actually
they're being
little
kids. They're opportunity to be kids.
And then you just see a knife fling in the middle of the Monopoly board, and which actually made me jump. I was like, "Ooh!"
The movie got you.
It got me. It did get me. And then Malachi comes and is really upset that they're playing games because, as we know, that's a no-no in the town of Gatlin now.
Yeah, so he's going to haul him off to go see Isaac. Then we cut back to Bert and Vicky, and we found out Bert knew it was an accident because the kid's neck was slit, which obviously usually doesn't happen probably when you hit a kid with a car.
Yeah.
I guess it's possible. But anyway, but then Isaac has compassion on these kids for whatever reason. I guess because they weren't present when Isaac is talking about he who walks behind the rose, which I guess is this deity they worship as God.
Well, and then he also points out that Sarah has the gift of sight.
Gift of sight. So this is apparently a blessing, and so that's the reason to let Sarah live. And Job, I guess.
I think it's because it's her brother. Like maybe he thinks that she'll freak out if her brother dies, or
and
like
flake on drawing the pictures or something.
Yeah, or something to like mess with her sight. I don't know, but like he essentially was like, yeah, these two can go ahead and go back to where they were and play their games. It's fine.
Take them back where they were.
But they had a game in music. They're forbidden.
Question me not, Malachi.
And Malachi isn't happy about it.
He is not. And you can see the tension boiling between Isaac and Malachi, even right there.
Because I get the idea that Malachi is the one that says no music, no drawing, no crayons or anything like that. Isaac is not that strict about it.
Which they kind of put a nod to. This happens a little bit later on, but she is asked, like, why can't you draw? Does Isaac tell you that you can't draw? And she said, no, Malachi.
Yeah, so we find out later that it's Malachi who has this weird dogmatic.
Which is strange.
You get the idea that Isaac's the one with all the dogma and the ceremony, and like he'd be the one saying you can and cannot do this. Here's the list of things you can't do. Whereas Malachi is more just like all about the blood and the sacrifice.
But I don't know. Yeah.
It's a little unclear, which I kind of wish they would have fleshed that out a little bit more. But Isaac's calm presence is super creepy.
Yes,
his super creepy kid is super creepy.
His whole, even his tone, he has that like weird kind of higher pitched.
I mean, his voice should be put in the national register or something like that because it is.
Yeah, it's very
crazy.
Unsettling. They did a perfect job.
The casting director did great with him and Malachi especially.
Yeah.
Isaac has seen Bert Vicky's arrival as well, and Sarah has drawn it. So apparently, he walks behind the rose, has shared this with Isaac, and he sees this drawing, which confirms that Sarah has the gift of sight. And granted the blessing, so he basically is going to let them go. And we cut back to Bert and Vicky, and we see that there's a creepy corn cross or crucifix in the suitcase that Joseph had.
Which was really unsettling.
I don't know why he took that with him, too. It's like, if you want to leave, why are you taking this object of a thing you're trying to escape from?
I don't understand that either, unless it was a way because he had to go through the corn. Maybe it was his way of being.
He thought it was a talisman or something?
Yeah, you'll keep me safe because I have this. You won't get me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But we find out that they're keeping an old man alive at a gas station to keep appearances, I guess.
Well, they mentioned the gasoline. He has the gasoline there in order to run their tractors and the irrigation system. But he's saying that because he doesn't want to give it to him.
I know. Yeah. So at least it's not for that aid to him. It seems like the crows seem to telegraph evil because, like, the old man's there. And we see like, like it's
well,
like
everything.
Okay.
There's a storm of brewing, both metaphorically and physically at this time.
So he's told to tell Bert and Vicky nothing, but the kids don't get there to tell him that. He doesn't help them with gas. He doesn't help them with anything else. There's no phone.
No. The only thing he says is not go to Gatlin.
Right.
Don't bother with Gatlin. Those people have religion, is what he says. Trying to like kind of shoo it, not really bring it up, and then go to Hemmingford.
Hemmingford, which Hemmingford home is where Mother Abigail from The Stand lives, which I thought was very interesting. Now, whether this is the same part of the Stephen King universe or not, I don't know. I mean, it is part of the larger tie-in with that stuff, but I thought that was pretty fun.
Stephen King does that quite a bit, though, which I like. He makes like reference nods to his other
He
works.
does. Some people like it, some people don't. But I think it's fun that he
nice.
has nods like that to his other work, which was, again, Stan came out around the same time. So they touched on the Wood Gatlin, and we see some nice sped up clouds over the old man, which I was like, for 1984, for a movie this cheap to have that kind of visual effect, I wasn't mad at it, because they didn't have After Effects at this point. It's like, they could just easily do a sky replacement. I mean, maybe it's easier than I think, and maybe this was really nothing, and
Well, compared to the other effects in this movie, it was beautiful.
Oscar.
It was
nominated.
it was done really well.
Okay. Because the old man at least was moving, so I did get the idea, like, if he was freeze framed, obviously they could have just, optically put in the sped up clouds, and that'd been pretty easy, but it seemed like he was moving normally, and then the clouds are moving super fast, which I thought was a pretty decent effect, all things considered.
Yes.
Especially considering what comes later.
Yes. Which is.
And then we see a hand taking a tire iron out of the old man's truck. And it's like, sorry, old man.
And we see the cutest dog in the world, which, what happens to cute dogs in scary movies?
Great things, Leah. They go to the farm
It's
upstate.
the worst. Would you stop
They go to the
it?
farm upstate, Leah. Dog's
They go
fine.
to a beautiful farm where they can chase bunnies and have all the land in the world.
That's right, Leah.
Oh,
The dog's fine.
not
It just
fun.
left its bloody bandana behind.
That's,
It's just bloody from, saying goodbye to his very dead owner.
Which is exactly what happens.
Yes, and so they do take the Hemingford Fort, where Mickey do. Just like, wow, short movie, cool. But they make comments about how, like, the signs, like, there's signs to Gatlin, and it's like, I don't know why.
Well, they're turning away from Gatlin, and then while they're doing it, there's still more signs to Gatlin, but it's saying that they're getting closer at every mile marker, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and so, the old man and the dog are getting killed. Next thing we know, they're blazing through a dirt road through the corn, which I'm just like, this isn't even a road. They're driving through the cornfield now.
I want to know, like, who, there has to be an initial turn onto that dirt road through the corn.
Like, there had to have been
Who's
something
gonna be
where it's like,
yes.
wait, no, we've made this turn, so now I need to go through this cornfield, and that's going to get us to where it's going to go. There needed to be some decision that we didn't see.
Yeah.
It just drives me crazy. And then Bert runs over some corn, and it's like, oh no, Bert!
Yeah, I thought that
Don't run over the
something happened.
corn. Like, what's going on?
Well, then I noticed, like, I heard the corn husk beating the car, and for some reason I was thinking they popped a tire, and I was like, oh no. Like, that's what I thought was going to be the start of,
Well, knowing what I know about what happens later with the soil moving, I was just like waiting for it to be like tremors, like the soil grabs the car or something, like the car just won't go like anymore. But yeah, obviously that didn't happen. But they wind up coming back up to the garage, and that's where we see the old man's bloody hand, the bloody bandana. We know that both the old man and his cute dog have did it, which is a bummer. At least you didn't have to see it. You didn't have to watch the dog suffer.
That is true.
Or
That
see
is
its
true.
poor legs
Thank you.
start twitching,
Thank you for
Halloween
that.
style. I mean, you're spared that at least. So, but of course, the old man does explore the garage way too much. I mean, you obviously
Yeah,
wanna get out in the open, right?
I feel like that he should have lured the kids out. He's walking into a garage. He knows that there's a bunch of kids in there. He can hear them. He's talking to them. It's how we know that he knows that they are there. And he's calling them like creepy little devils and things like that. Why would you enter a garage that is a garage by nature that has so many metal, pointy, sharp objects in there, including like engine hooks and just everything, and trying to fend himself off from like 15 to 20 kids? Lure them out of the garage. Like, they're,
to kill them? So you're pro adults.
or I don't
children.
know. Do something. I mean, I guess they're trying to kill him, so.
I'm just teasing.
Survival of the fittest sometimes. That's
It
not
wasn't very
so
fit,
bad.
Leah. That was not.
Well, I mean, they should have just at least let the dog live.
So they wind up back at the gas station. Yeah, so Bert decides just like, okay, forget it. We'll just go to Gatlin. It's closer, and he just wants to like figure out what's going on, make a phone call.
I mean, they've got a
talk
dead
to some
little kid in the
authorities,
trunk. That's
yeah.
gotta be an uneasy
And it's
feeling.
relatively understandable. Just like I just want to move on and like figure out like what do I need to do? What paperwork do I need to fill out? Do I need to sign up a deposition? Like something. Like,
I need to know what's going on with my life.
what is the right thing to do here? Because as a doctor, to have hit a kid on a highway, like I want to get this cleared and behind me, so I'm not haunted by this as I start like my practice or whatever. So it makes sense that he wants to get this figured out. And then we cut back to Isaac and him. He's preaching to the children in the field with a big giant corn crucifix with.
For he has great power, even greater than that of the Blue Man.
The Blue Man on it, which is like that. I like the evocativeness of it being the Blue
Yeah.
Man. It's obviously a police officer by the looks of it, but it was just like that was creepy and interesting. And he says he was told of Joseph leaving and that the cord should not be polluted with his blood, so do it on the road. But then the blood was spilled on the corn.
Well,
Like,
that's
it
why
splattered on the corn.
He's upset with Malachi for doing it in the corn. He gets really mad at Malachi.
He gets mad at Malachi, but he says that Malachi didn't offer a sacrifice or something with it, with Joseph. Like, I don't know what he was supposed to do with Joseph.
A child is supposed to be sacrificed along with someone else, which is why Amos, right, or whatever his name is, like, somebody's supposed to watch over the sacrifice, meaning a child will be sacrificed also. So he didn't sacrifice himself, he only sacrificed a child and not another being or not another grown-up or something with it. That's what I caught. Like, two people have to be sacrificed, a child. Which I could be so wrong about that. It could just be my synapses are firing.
Because I was just wondering. Yeah, I was wondering if it was just going to come back to bite Malachi that he had completed the ritual of some kind. But
it could have been that. I don't know. Or else it could have also just been Isaac. Like I said, they're butting heads. So he could have been like, you should have killed yourself too, along with that. Like he could have.
Something along those lines, like, I mean, you could have at least, had the good sense to offer yourself along with Joseph, or something like that. But yeah, he didn't go that route, which was weird. And so now the Outlanders, as they're calling Bert and Vicky, are to be killed or sacrificed as unbelievers, which I love. Outlander!
They kept on saying that for some reason. I thought they said Highlander the first. And I was just like, there can only be one.
Well, but Outlander, I'm like, Diana Gabaldon? Like, we're gonna get some romantic Scottish time travel fiction out of this?
Yeah, that was a very weird word to choose.
But it's so evocative,
Is it biblical? Do they say Outlander?
Not that I recall.
I can't recall that either. So that's why I was like, where did they even come up with this word?
Bring him the blood of the Outlander! Praise God! Praise the Lord!
Yeah, does it sound like an Amish thing or like?
Yeah, and we saw it like outsider. I could see them like knowing the Outlander.
But it's so evocative, especially when Malachi is yelling. I like it though. I do. I'm just like that's like ooh, it's kind of creepy and adds to the vibe of the whole thing, and like it kind of adds to this thing of like this being a weird, crazy, culty sect with like. Are they actually worshiping something that's for real, or like are they just totally out of their minds? Like what's going on here? And this whole Outlander thing just adds to it. Now the fact that Joseph, they were like 10 miles out from Gatlin or something like that, right? They were like 10 or so-ish miles.
He made it.
And Malachi is like there, but then he's at the cornfield and like no time has passed. So is he who walks behind the rows giving these kids piggyback rides or teleportation? Like,
They're doing
is he surfing? Are they surfing on like the mounds of dirt we see later? Just like, I just would love to see like some Beach Boys playing as they're like riding the corn
crowd
waves.
surfing on top of the corn husk, like they like a wave, just.
I don't know. I mean,
I have no clue.
I would love to have seen some cheesy like Twilight running style, like think of them being pulled through the corn at like light speed or something like that.
I will say, before Joseph walked into the corn initially, in the very beginning, you do see the corn part on itself. So I was like, okay.
They occasionally do try to do cool stuff with the corn, but I just don't. I mean, that's fine, but even if you have a straight 10-mile route, you still have to move 10 miles.
No, I totally understand. But I meant like in terms of, that something paranormal is going on now. Like,
that's fair. Yeah,
so
it's not all.
Maybe the corn does like shift, or maybe it can move like a maze. You know what I mean? And
but
10 miles
how's it dilating distance? Like that's.
It can expand and contrast. It is the cord.
Let's see here. So Bert's obsessed with finding someone in Gatlin. For some reason, he goes to check out a house just when they decide to leave town. Like he's looked around and like. We've seen like a kid reaching for a blade. We see kids hiding and watching them. And he's gone
What I thought was kind of interesting is he's looking through the windows in the cafe. They go into the cafe, don't they?
And there's like corn.
There's corn husks everywhere. And then he looks in the windows of a school, and then he sees the church, and he just passes by the church. He doesn't even go up to the church like he has with every other building.
Right.
He just passes by it, which I thought was interesting. I was like, is that his thing? Because they were mocking the religious spiel or the radio station they were hearing in the car that was spouting.
Oh yeah, there was religious
stuff.
Radio that they pop on the radio around.
And you could tell they kind of had disdain for it. Like they just didn't want anything to do with it. They were mocking it. They thought it was silly or stupid in their eyes. And all of a sudden he sees the church and he just passes by. And then you see the door open with the kid. So I was like, was that their, like, if you would have gone to the church and asked for help, they wouldn't have done anything?
Well, I think it's a nod to the story, because in the story they make it very clear that the church is obviously the only place not covered in like years of dust and neglect.
That is
like,
true. And
so the church actually stands out.
And the church, the wording on the church is different too. And that's what kind of drew him in the story. We'll get to that later, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get to the story, but I think it was kind of a nod to that, though. And also, it would have been a very short movie.
That is true.
Even
Long
shorter movie if he goes to church, because then it's all over. Excuse me. So they finally decide to leave town, but then for some reason they stop at this house to take one last look, because basically he sees something. He sees like the door closed, and it's like, wait, someone's here, and it's just like.
Which is a whole other weird reason why they're going into the house.
Like, why would you care about a house being habited but not the town? Like, if the town's inhabited, then something's wrong. And why would you want to go to a personal dwelling that could be part of the cause of why this town's not okay?
My thing is, yet again, we have another movie where they go into a house that isn't their own. The door just happens to be unlocked, so they go in. And even Vicky says, you know what I mean? This is someone else's house. So she says something like that. They go in. They're sneaking around, they're feeling that something's weird, and then they hear something, so they go towards it. You are broken into someone's house. This is like Jack Frost all over again. You have broken into someone's house, and you're searching for them, and you're being like creeped out and you're in someone else's house.
I know. It's wild, but they're really stretching it out too. It's like they're moving slowly through this house. So the pacing in this movie, not great, I have to say. And, well, the little girl turns out to be Cranky the Wanderer. Which I'm surprised they get the rights to that. But anyway, for a reasonable amount of money. So then Bert decides to just peace out, leave Vicky with Sarah. Just like, I'm going to go check out City Hall. You're a woman, you like kids, right?
Yeah.
And just leaves her there.
You're going to stay with the kid. I have to find an adult. And he even says, like, we're losing time. Like, he's kind of freaking out. I feel like he's like, there's a body in the car. We're losing time.
See, this is getting fraught, and I feel like this is enough. This is enough, Leah. This is enough. It's getting fraught. Like, there's some tension here. They split up. I think this is enough. But anyway, we'll get there.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I thought it was weird not weird, sorry. I thought it was kind of a nice nod to the short story, how he's like, I'm gonna leave you the car, if anything happens, honk. Drive through the town and honk. Or come to City Hall and honk.
He was not that beatific in the story, Leah. He did not leave her the car, but we'll get there.
That is true. But honk.
He left her in the car. He did not leave her the car. But yeah, so he stops at the school first. He sees it's full of corn, like the cafe they looked at earlier. And then Malachi goes in after Vicky with a bunch of other kids.
Which is a really weird, yet again, they encircle the house, all these kids, with
shovels and rakes and implements of destruction.
Exactly, and like when you see kids, you think like they'll be happy-go-lucky or whatever. And they're holding all of these things. They all look really just downcast and nefarious and scary and
they want blood, Leah. They want blood.
Creepy children.
It's one of those things where it's a mob mentality, and it's
yes,
crazy.
That is true.
So other kids are lying in wait for Bert. So yeah, City Hall's filled with corn. Like all the phones, like the cords have been hacked. It's all nothing works. And then.
But we do see Job following Bert around, which I thought I thought he was going to help him immediately. I was like, oh, he's going to run towards him and ward him off. He's literally just watching. Job is like the observer.
Job is waiting for his moment, but I don't think I don't know.
And they also show him, I think he's in town hall. They show the picture, wow. They show the picture of Jesus, and it's described exactly how it was in the book, which I thought was a good little nod.
I didn't really pay too much attention to the
they
picture.
show like there's an older picture of Jesus, but his skin is green, he has corn husks for hair, his eyes are blackened out. They do a very good description in the short story, but I thought that was a good nod too for the movie.
I didn't really pay much attention to that for some reason. I don't know why. I was like, I just didn't think about picture Jesus being in the city hall, I guess. So I was like, who is this?
It wasn't in the church,
So that's where I wasn't as tied into what they were doing with that, I guess, because it was like, oh, okay, they just defaced a painting in City Hall or something.
I feel like it was because I think my Nana had that same picture, not that same picture of Jesus, but like the picture of Jesus that's underneath the cord.
Your Nana might not have been alright.
Such a cool Nana.
Yeah, but so Sarah draws a picture of Vicky, but Vicky does not like what she sees in this picture at all.
And you can't see it at first, so I was like, show me the picture the entire time.
And then the kids attack, and Vicky's like, "What do you want?" And Malachi's just like, "We want to give you peace."
We want to give you peace.
I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy."
I do like how she fights back. She does grab a lamp and throws it up. And at first, I think they're like, okay, now we're getting.
I was like, and this is like, it's the Sarah Connor we come to know later. I think that's pretty cool. It's a little nods to her not being a milk of toast,
Yeah. But they do
appreciate
carry
it.
her off, and then you see Sarah, because she was with her, is just crouched in the corner, sort of like she's just.
Right.
Which, I mean, what
What's Sarah
can
gonna
she do?
do? Yeah.
That's true. But she doesn't scream or anything. It seems like that this maybe has happened before.
I mean, obviously, yeah.
You know, like, she just, yeah.
Her parents are both killed, so yes, it's definitely experienced
Something.
growing
Well,
up being taken from her violently like that. But yeah, we see the picture, which I believe is Vicky's on the crucifix. Was in the picture?
they're dragging
They're
her.
dragging
She
her,
has
that's
like
right.
blood dripping from her towards
That's
this
right.
corn husk crucifix
There it
in
is.
the middle of a clearing.
There it is. Okay. They take Vicky away. Bert gets a bad feeling and runs over to Vicky. And we see Vicky in some sort of scene in the cornfield. It looks to be the sacrifice. Malachi's in a spot of trouble because he killed Joseph without an offering and killed the old man while he's still useful.
Yes.
And now they have to capture Bert before Amos is ready to leave.
And Isaac is extremely angry at Malachi.
He is.
He is creepy.
And then Bert sees the picture and goes to the corn, which parts for him. And that's where we're like, something's going on here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, wait. So he doesn't go towards the corn immediately. They take him to the barn, don't they? Because he's like, take me to her. So they take him up to a barn where Job is like, you can see everything.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Right? So that's
yeah.
why I was like, so is Job just
The
like
barn,
a watcher?
Barn with a view. That's
like,
right.
is Job like he is keeping tabs on everybody? Like, I don't know. He just seemed like such a observer.
Yeah, I mean, Joseph, he and his sister are allowed to, or Job and his sister are just allowed to do what they want,
Yeah.
which is really weird.
They're like the only two kids that
everything
are.
seems highly regulated that I'm like, why? I still understand why these two are allowed to just.
They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And like, they're the only two kids that you see not in a mob. Hardly
Right.
ever. I mean, I guess you don't see Malachi, but he's like on a mission for the mob. He's obviously, like you said, the enforcer. So I don't know, but yeah, and at first when I saw the clearing from the barn, I was like, oh, it's on fire. But they just had the fire poles or whatever for light.
Oh yeah, the torches.
Yeah.
Well, the
torches.
church bell rings, and Bert runs there while Vicky's being raised up on the cross with just corn silk in her hair. And it's like, oh gosh, this is getting real. And the church, Bert walks in to see Amos, we assume. His blood's being spilled from a pentagram that he's carved in his chest into a corn bowl, and this girl will then drink from it.
And he signed his name in his own blood, like he
in
did
this
the
book,
quill.
yes, and it was like his birthday. And
Yeah.
we were like, what is going on with this book? And so basically Amos monologues about the whole ritual of everything going on, and that basically the first night of his 19th year, that's when he will offer himself to he who walks behind the rose, which is what you do in this society.
And then again, this guy, like, he doesn't have necessarily a creepy voice, but his stony face, as he's saying it, like you can tell it's almost like a brainwash. He does a very good brainwashed teenager type.
He came across as hopelessly naive.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, just like, this is how it is. Let me do this. I will find my peace.
Like he was so milquetoast, just like, I can't wait to do this, guys. Like, it was really weird. It wasn't off-putting. It was just kind of like, dude, like.
What are you, crazy? What do you think you're doing?
My passage. It's my birthday.
Grow a brain cell, man.
Well,
What's going on?
This is when they don't mention it in the movie, which is kind of nice, and they do mention it in the short story, but you see a lot of pregnant women.
Right, yes, the pregnant thing is a whole other thing, and
Yeah, you see it in this movie. You see them being, anyway.
Yeah, but 19 also is basically Stephen King's 13.
Yes, okay.
So 19 is, if 19 comes up, even I noticed in some of his books, chapter 19, usually something bad happens in chapter 19 of his books. I've noticed. Maybe I'm just reading into that because I know 19 is like a cursed number.
What if something bad happened to him when he was 19?
I don't know exactly.
Stephen King, if you're watching, let us know.
Sure.
Let us know. I need to know.
All right. So the girl has Malachi brought, but she manages to stab Bert with this corn knife that they're using. Before Malachi shows up, Bert runs off, which, man, dude, he runs really well. He has been stabbing it looks, not the shoulder, it looks like his lung. Like his lung should be punctured, but this dude is booking it.
He is. I even have that in my notes. I'm like, this man is fast. Fast runner. He was a smoker, and he's been stabbed. And you do see him kind of hunch over, like, right away when he comes down the steps.
And that's fair. It sure gets appropriately bloody after a while, but I'm just like, this dude is really
adrenaline and shock probably has to do with some of that.
Yeah, we're giving the movie a little bit there, but I can see that.
He's a doctor. He can do what he wants.
And then Bert manages to, like, stab Malachi, but then he runs into a wall. He runs into a post. I'm just like, Bert.
Well, I was like, is that like comic relief? Or
I don't
did
know.
that actually happen?
There's a rope there, which I'm just like, maybe he hit the rope, which would soften the blow, which I'm just like, it was just like Looney Tunes level, just like, plonk. I'm just like, oh, dude.
Well, I was like, please say that actually happened. And they just kept the take in the movie.
And he's just like, hold his head and leave, and I'm just like, oh no. So it would have been too easy if he.
I don't know.
It's
and
weird.
like, did he stab Malachi or did he hit him in the shit? I couldn't tell what he was doing. So
I'm pretty sure he got a stab in on Malachi, if I'm not mistaken.
Because when Malachi comes back up, he's just like, oh, darn it. And then like just keeps on, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, foiled again.
I know, yeah.
And then runs away.
It's a little wild. I was just like, he runs into the wall, literally, a post. I was just like, wow. But Job saves Bert, helps out to bring to a basement bunker where he and Sarah hide out. Has supplies in case of a communist first strike, which I was like, wow, this was the 80s. All right. And Isaac is listened to because he's considered a great preacher. But Job and Sarah always thought he was weird from the start, which, how could you listen to this kid and not think he's super weird? I mean, not to be mean, but just like...
there's something just a little off. Something that gives you the heebie-jeebies.
So then Malachi gets into a doctrinal fight with Isaac. So the kids like Malachi's blood and sacrifice doctrine, and they're not down with Isaac's more ceremonial doctrine.
They are tired of your talk, Isaac. I've shown them what I can do. Cut the woman down. Put Isaac in her place.
So they cut Vicky down to put Isaac in her place, which is just like, what? So yeah, so Isaac's on the crucifix now.
Which was really weird, because I was just like, multiple cornhusk, don't you? Like, couldn't you have formed another one?
Why not both?
And sacrifice them both?
I guess they would have taken time. Like, you don't have time for arts and crafts.
I guess,
they
don't have time for arts and crafts.
Malachi's dragged Vicky downtown to get Bert to come out of hiding. And he, like, cuts her face, so she's, like, screaming. And he's in this bunker, so obviously he doesn't hear it. And nothing comes of that.
Nothing comes of that, yeah.
It's just like...
Outlander! Come on! Come on! Come on, Outlander!
I think it's just to show that maybe the bunker really is sort of soundproof and secluded, and that's why nobody has
they never
ever
even think to open this basement door. Ever look in here. Ever.
They've never found Job and
in
Sarah.
The 3 or so years that since they've killed like adults, they've never gone house to house looking top to bottom, every basement, every whatever. You'd think at this point they'd have gotten bored.
Well, and this is what I was like, so if you have this bunker that nobody knows about that's essentially sort of soundproof to an extent, why would you ever go into the house and play games
once you do
there?
your records, once you do your games there.
And take it.
I mean, it's kind of genius because they never think to look because you're obviously not. They
like you're hiding
anything.
spies.
Like if they wonder, where do you go all the time, kids? We're looking for you. Where do you always go? And it's like, oh.
That is true, but
so it's actually good they don't.
I feel like that would take a lot of thought on the kids' part. I would just be like, nope, I'm hunkering here. I'm staying right here. Nobody can find me. I'm good.
I think when it comes down to ritual time, I think maybe they're able to hide there, and that's kind of where they go. And it's like when the stuff's really going down, that they hide out there. But anyway, they've gotten lucky that hasn't been found out yet. But anyway, so Joe brings Vicky up. Brings her up to Bert, and just like, hey, remember Vicky? She's at the clearing. Remember Vicky, that woman you were with? Yeah, she's at the clearing. So then Bert has him take him there. So they go downtown. The kids are all back at the clearing, which is just like, why did Malachi give up so soon?
Yeah.
Well, he's not coming, so I guess we're going back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the kids take Bert to the barn with a view, has a view, great view of the clearing. And then the Bert's going to leave them to sneak into the clearing. And
he tells them to stay right there, right? If you see anything happen, run towards.
Like, don't like go away.
Does he say to run towards Hemmingford?
Something, yes, so go to Hemmingford, yeah. Again, Mother Abigail, yeah. But anyway, so then Amos goes out in the field and he's like, I'm ready, take me. And then we see a graboid from Tremors. We see the ground, like this hump under the ground, just like, it's a graboid! Yes! And Tremors, Children of the Corn shared universe. And he gets taken by it, I guess, because we hear screaming. I wish we would have heard like some other type of sound with it, like crunching or ripping or tearing or something. We just hear a scream. We're just kind of like, that's it?
Well, and also when he runs out to the field, like you hear Amos like, I'm ready! Like he like sounds like pumped. And then all of a sudden just, ah! And that's it.
I wish it would have been gnarlier, like we would see more struggle or like see like some blood flying up. Or
else him even shouting like, no, I'm not ready or something. You know what I mean?
Never mind!
Yeah.
Never mind!
I take it back! Like something.
Yeah, like.
But you don't hear any of that. You just hear a scream.
And then Isaac is like screaming on the cross and whatever, and he gets covered in really bad VFX, like just animated cartoons covering him.
Well, at first I thought they were eating him because when you see the blue man, aka the police officer, you see like a skeleton hanging there.
But yeah, obviously if you left someone up there and never cut him down, and
I thought that it was like the corn or he who walks behind the rose like just ate their flesh slowly and then like came back down and would like eat them slowly throughout a couple of months. But instead you get this thing, this really bad
cartoon graphic.
Yeah, like climbing up him and then it explodes from the ground.
Yeah, it's like boom! Launch! And I'm just like, what happened? Like, what happened to Graboid, he who walks behind the roads, to like cartoon, he who walks behind the roads, to kaboom!
Yeah.
He who walks behind the roads. I have no idea what I'm seeing. But it's like, well, there goes Isaac.
Well, and then at first it was like, well, they didn't, obviously the courthouse didn't explode for the blue man, but then again, Isaac is maybe a prophet, so like,
but then, why? How is Isaac lost favor? Is it because he lost control? Because you'd think that he walks behind the road.
Maybe he who walks behind the road didn't really know it was him, and then he ate him, and that's why it exploded. And then
he's like, "Oh, I'm mad now."
Yeah.
Okay, you made me kill like my prophet guy.
Yeah, you made me.
So I am severely peeved.
So I'm gonna bring him back.
We'll get there because Bert has to show up first and slap Malachi around. Going full on Ralphie hitting the bull.
Which is funny. I thought at first like he slapped him until he passed out, and I was like, he just slapped him.
And then so Bert's preaching that any religion without love or compassion is false. Which I'm like, Bert, that's a strong stance for a guy who's making fun of a preacher on the radio coming into town. But then Isaac shows up. Malachi!
He wants you too, Malachi.
He kills Malachi apparently.
Which I
guess
thought
breaks his neck, that's right.
I thought that was weird too, because I understand that he would want to seek his vengeance on Malachi, but he doesn't seek his vengeance on Bert, who's sitting there preaching essentially against everything that he was preaching before. He like doesn't even bother with Bert.
But then again, Isaac, as awful as like they're killing the parents and everything like that, he let Job and Sarah live. Like there was a compassion there. There was like a care for each other that Malachi did not have. Like, Malachi was just so punitive and so everything that there wasn't even the modicum of love and compassion that Isaac.
I thought Isaac didn't really have love and compassion. I thought that he was just more like, you cannot kill Sarah because she.
But Job, again, what about Job?
I don't know.
He also ran. I mean, there's got to be. All I can think of is love and compassion, so I think keeping that kid alive.
Maybe.
Whatever love and compassion's there. Anyway, yeah. So Malachi's dead, and the whole like Isaac coming back just so freaked me out as a kid. And then Bert and the kids run to the barn as a storm kicks up, and then apparently Officer Hotchkiss was the blue man. Apparently Job had tried to explain this to Bert, and I missed it. But anyway,
I did not hear.
Because I guess Hotchkiss had gone to talk to the minister before all this started, like basically trying to warn him, like, hey, this Isaac kid, like it's going to be bad, like there will be blood, kind of thing. Like we need to stop this because it will be not good, and no one listened to him. And apparently he'd been reading from the Bible from a passage that the kid tore out had on him the literal pages that the officer had. Here, I happen to have the pages that the actual pages that the blue man is reading from, and he reads this passage, and he's going to basically burn the field with gasohol. Vicky just has this premonition of just
as he's
going to burn it. There's a lake of fire. I'm like, that's a real stretch that you're going to burn the field for talking about this lake of fire in this Bible passage. I'm like, that's not what that's about. Like, this is how we get into trouble with like trying to interpret this stuff in ways that like suit what you're needing to do. Like,
I just love how they're like, how do we get rid of it? And my first thing would have been like, it's corn, burn it. Like I wouldn't have What do you mean? That would have been my first go-to thing. Like,
You burn the
we
car,
gotta
but
try
does
and get
that
rid of it.
hurt the thing? Like, does that hurt He Who Walks
But
Behind the
that
Rose?
is
Like,
true. But at the same time, I'm just like, you want to get rid of the corn? You burn it down. That would have been my first thing that I would have thought of.
but burning a field of corn has to be easier said than done, especially when the corn's green. Like, it's one thing when it's brown and flammable, but like when it's
That
green,
is
like
true.
that's not going to be an easy thing to do. And so we get lots of drama about hooking up the hose to the pump, to the gas hall, to the thing.
Before that, you see them in the barn, and obviously He Who Walks Behind the Rose is like throwing a temper tantrum of a storm.
I mean, he's
throwing
only,
stuff.
he's occasionally removing a panel of the barn very.
I think we're safer here for now, anyway.
One piecemeal, one at a time, like.
The best part, the absolute best part, is when Vicky glances up and you just see this row of corn in the window go, and like this corn stalk pops up.
What? I missed it.
That?
I missed it. Oh.
You have to go back and watch it because literally it looks like just
Like
this
the corn's
weird,
beginning, like, oh,
yeah,
it's sauce.
like beginning and then it goes down. It's so funny. I was dying.
no,
I
really?
was dying.
Okay, because I was too like wondering like I'm trying to remember how in the world they got this, and then I'm like, but wait, how does the fire not travel back up the hose? Like, is there enough pressure in that hose to keep the fire from going back into the tank to blow the whole thing up? Like, I don't know. So Bert has to go out in the field with the hose. Like he's got to be a hero, even though he's like got one arm not functioning at this point because he was stabbed on that side, and the corn tries to strangle Bert, and the only thing that saves him is Job coming to help.
Which,
And then he yells at Job for helping him.
which I don't understand. How come the corn doesn't go after Joe? Like, why
They
doesn't
can't
the
afford
corn...
to have that much corn being puppeted because it was a struggle just to have the corn look like it was strangling Bert.
Well, for some reason I was thinking, like, does Job have some sort of power that is just never talked about? Like, the corn just, like, repels against him?
I think the corn
Because he
isn't
wasn't-
going after kids or something that he's not after or something like that.
I don't know, because it looked like he just, like, touched the corn that was strangling Bert, and it just sort of like, oh, okay, he touched me.
I mean,
I'm going
maybe
away.
Job's untouchable or something. Maybe that's part of why Isaac's like, we can't do anything to this kid because
Yeah, I don't know.
he's
Yeah,
got protection or something.
I thought they were gonna bring more into that, like, oh, Job can't. Maybe Job controls he who is behind the rose, and nobody knows, or something. I thought they were gonna put another layer onto it, which obviously they didn't.
No idea, but yeah, he tells Job to go back, but then Bert takes Job's help to get the pump up and running.
So yeah, good thing he sticked around.
I
Bert.
know. And and He Who Walks Behind the Rose is coming at them as a bad VFX cloud. Once again, it's like, ooh, really shouldn't have. Really should have like hinted or like had some like red glow in the corn coming closer or something
even
like that.
if it just was like a dark mass, like, you know what I mean, like dark billowing clouds.
Or like you had like the torches were like away, like you had the torches starting to go out as it gets closer and closer and closer. Like have something where it's like you don't have to have a terribly animated cloud effect.
It was so bad. That part. The rest of the story was great, but yeah. But it was back in the day.
Then we get Bert, Joey, Bert, Joey.
Which I was like,
about an hour and a half.
Which I was like, when did he start calling him Joby?
Yeah, I don't know.
But then you hear Sarah say Joby, so I was like, well, maybe.
Yeah, and then we get bad at VFX and animation as He Who Walks Behind the Rose is burned up? Question mark.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how an evil thing
Through multiple explosions.
It would be burned up.
Well, I thought which I guess they did do.
And it goes up.
And then it goes down.
It does.
Yeah, it goes up and then it goes down, and I was like, ooh, so it's
But it
not
lives
dead.
down. Like I'm like I don't understand.
I don't know.
It lives in the clouds. It lives in the ground. It's everywhere. It's nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't understand what happened.
It's corn. It's everywhere and nowhere.
But apparently it's gone. And the kids laugh at Bert and Vicky kissing, which is like that's very TGIF, I guess.
Yeah.
And sitcom.
And then it's like,
woo! Like we should have the studio audience, you know? Like I don't know.
And it's like, do you want to live with us for a day, for a week, for a month? Like it's one of those.
Yeah,
like,
that was like, ooh, gosh, my teeth hurt. That's
I was
just
like,
too
dude,
sweet, too sweet.
These
Like,
kids don't have any parents, and you're like joking about them living like.
yeah,
it
we're
was
gonna dangle this
creepy
over you
for me.
kids. Like, get ready to be disappointed because I don't think that's how this is gonna work.
In a month, we're gonna send you away.
Especially to clear up the fact that we did kill this kid that's in the trunk of our car that's eventually going to be found.
And it's still there. I
And-
mean, the car has a bunch of corn husks in it.
Yeah,
because
they
obviously
destroyed the
kids
car,
destroyed
yeah.
it. But the dead kid is still in the trunk, and they just never mention that again.
But they decided to walk to Hanford, let the kids stay for them a while, and then the girl who was in the church with the sacrifice was in the car because Bert's got to get a map and tries to take out Bert, but Vicky knocks her out. Go Vicky.
Well,
All
and
right.
she's pregnant, and then They like knocked her out, and she was just like, "Come on, let's go." Yeah, she's pregnant because she's holding her belly when Amos goes into the corn.
That's right.
And in the short story, it's
these kids have to be.
it's Amos's kid in the short story. If
Malachi, but another woman has Malachi's kid though.
Yeah.
I think they did. That was kind of, and yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, it's one of those things where, well, I mean, hopefully she didn't hurt so hard, but it's one of those things where
but then they just walk away. There's like Leah.
and literally knocks her out. It cuts to the outside of the car. The end. And as they're walking away, it's like, wait, we haven't wrapped the shoot yet. Nope, sorry, credits are rolling. I
thought like they were gonna do something. Like
I was literally waiting to see like lights and grips and everyone just taking down the set. Nope.
No, we're done.
Peace out.
I was waiting to
Pop
see
a champagne.
like her get out of the car, or like her like having like labor sounds in the corn or something. It'd be like, ooh, now there's a child of the corn or something creepy. And no, it just never happened.
I mean, she's gonna wake up and she's gonna fall. They're not gonna travel that fast.
No.
Like, I mean, this girl's gonna haunt them like on their way. Like
I agree.
I'm like, this is not finished. Like I don't know what they're doing.
And maybe I mean, were they trying to set it up for sequels?
I mean, I guess in '84 we would have already had a good amount of sequels. The sequels were definitely a thing, a rising tide. I mean, Friday the 13th came out in '84, if I'm not mistaken. So it's one of those things. Or Nightmare on Elm Street came out in '84. Excuse me. So we had full on. I think that was in the later '80s, but we didn't get a sequel for quite some time. I didn't look up to see when Charlie Children of the Corn 2 came out, but I think it was more a direct-to-video phenomenon. And by that point, I think it was just like we need sequel IPs because horror sequels are popular. Let's do Children of the Corn. Why not? We own the rights to it.
Well, I was like, is this like cheap on purpose, or did literally they were just like, and we can't think of anything else? The end.
But by the time they get to the third one, it's Urban Harvest, so they're already out of rural ideas. They have to go urban for the third one.
Ooh.
And I do believe that's I don't know if it's the debut, but one of the very early films I believe Charlize Theron is in.
Really?
Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest, if I'm not mistaken. This all could be wrong. It's one of those things where I kind of vaguely remember hearing about some of this stuff. I haven't bothered with any of the sequels because from everything I understand, they're terrible. Uniformly, like even the recent like remakes.
But is it like so terrible that it's good?
Unfortunately, I don't think any of them reach that level.
They're actually.
I think they're just literally like, this is miserable. Why am I wasting my life? Versus just like, this is good for a chuckle, like Leprechaun in the Hood. When Leprechaun went to the city, oh my gosh!
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh
I haven't seen any
gosh,
of them.
Leah.
I'm telling you,
And
I've
they were
missed a
there.
whole bunch of.
We could have done Leprechaun if they ever come back.
A whole bunch of like good staple campy horror films. I've missed them.
Oh gosh.
So yeah.
I mean,
I'm just waiting.
If we do Leprechaun, we have to do the first one, Leprechaun in space. Because before he went to the city, he went to space.
Did he though?
And it's amazing.
I'm just whenever you say somebody goes to space, I'm just did he?
He did. And he has a lightsaber.
That sounds great.
Unreal, Leah. And then Leprechaun in the Hood 1. Leprechaun in the Hood 2 was not as good, but Leprechaun in the Hood 1 is something special. It is
something special.
Capital T treat. If it ever comes back to Hoopla, we definitely have to check that one out. But all right. Now, I noticed that they think, the creepy kid chorus they had throughout the movie was one of the more effective things, I thought.
Yes, I will agree.
It kind of wore on me a little bit, but I was like, okay, a creepy kid chorus is always a good thing to have.
It's very unsettling.
It is.
Very unsettling.
And they thank Parker Brothers for Monopoly, I guess, which usually I think they have to say like Monopoly, trademark, Parker Brothers, or whatever company manufactures it. There's a Parker Brothers thank you.
Oh, well maybe they didn't have them pay for using Monopoly.
Maybe they just were hoping for forgiveness rather than permission. Like if you thank Parker Brothers, maybe they won't like sue us out of existence for using their trademark board game.
It could have been.
I don't know how that worked back in '84, but I think now it's like you have to literally be like, we have to clear this with the company, like Hasbro, whoever owns Monopoly now, like we have to do this, or you make up your own game. But anyway, I thought that was kind of fun to see. And so Leah, since we're in a library and librarians and all that good stuff, what do you think is better, the movie or the story?
The story, so much better.
Okay, so what is it about the story, Leah?
So I will say, It is a short story. Like what? It's like 40 pages, if that.
I won't get full into the story because we'll do a full story.
Yeah,
review,
but it's short, it's sweet, and it literally hits every creepy factor. Like, I feel like this movie, yes, of course there was creepy moments. It was unsettling, obviously. Little kids carrying sharp objects and trying to kill people. Very unsettling.
Sure.
But I feel like the short story did it on another level. There is no happiness, essentially, in the story. It just shows how, like, desolate and dark this entire place, including Bert and Vicky, like, everybody is
desolate place, desolate people. There's
Yeah.
nothing redeeming about anyone or anything.
There's no happiness. I hate happiness.
But Vicky and Bert, especially Bert, is so hateful. Like, it's just like, I mean, they're trying to save their marriage and stuff like that. And Stephen King agrees. He's like, because I guess he was tapped to write the screenplay for this movie, and his draft had like 45 pages or 45 minutes essentially, if a page translates to a minute of screen time, of them arguing nonstop in the car, which would have been just awful. I would not have wanted to hung out with these people in a movie.
But I liked it only before the ending. I like the fact that Vicky and Bert did not like each other. They were on their last hurrah. They were a married couple, been married for years. Don't remember why they even married each other. They say it so many times. Like, I don't even remember why I married you. Why am I with you? They're trying to, like, get back together, I guess, on this road trip. Give it one last try. Neither of them are falling for it. And the entire time, they're just like, I'm going to stick it to him. I'm going to stick it to her. I'm going to do this. Like, she can't. She doesn't want me to go to Gatlin. Oh, I'll go to Gatlin then. Like, one of those things where it's just like, you being so horrible to your significant other has put you in this horrendous place.
But they're both so horrible to each other.
No, they are. I mean, and
he's the kid, she's just dogging on him the whole time. Look, you hit a kid, Bert. Great job.
I agree. They're both horrible. I didn't mean to just put it on Bert. Like, they're both so horrible, but it gets them to this place. Like, he's saying that she's freaking out and she doesn't want to go. Well, she always cries wolf and she always gets her way. Not this time. And then, you know what I mean? And she just full on tells him, like, well, if you go in there, I'm going to take the car. I have my keys. And then he's like, oh, do you now? And then takes her keys.
I know.
It's one of these, like, back and forth things where it's like, you guys are both being so hateful. So then hatefulness is going to come upon you. And then it's not until the very end where it's like, oh, I did love her.
No, he does not say that. He sees it just like, I just get the vibe, it's just like, I should have just left. We never should have done this. We should have gotten a divorce.
Well, he says but they should have gotten a divorce because then they'd both still be alive. And I think that's what he's trying to say is like.
Oh, he wanted it for himself, not her.
Yeah,
He's already dead.
They're both still, and they both got what they deserved anyway.
When he sees her dead, I'm just like, I get no idea that he had any love for her whatsoever.
Oh, I did.
Nope.
I thought that he was.
It wasn't there.
He was like, you know what I mean? Oh, well, this could have all been prevented. Like, if only I would have listened to her. Like, it was one of those moments where it's like, I should have just swallowed my pride and listened to her. But only
because he would not be in this situation, not because of anything of her benefit.
I thought that because he was talking about, like, not seeing her eyes anymore and different. It gets kind of gruesome, I will say.
Lord, I didn't hear any of that.
It's gruesome.
I don't know. Maybe I need to reread it.
I don't know. Maybe I was also expounded, like, oh.
You just wanted them to have some kind of redeeming.
I wanted them to get a lesson, which they ultimately did get a lesson because in the short story, it is not resolved. It is nothing like the movie where there's a happy ending. They knock out a pregnant lady and walk into the, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like they don't escape. And the creepy children.
I will say that, the children and He Walks Behind the Rose and everything about that is very effective. And He Walks Behind the Rose is more effective because we don't have to see any of it.
Yeah.
And it's your imagination governing it. And that's what really makes the story more strong in my mind, just because it's your own imagination that fills in the gaps with all this stuff. And so the mythology is all there. Like the setup for the town is really creepy and effective.
Well, also I feel like in the short story, in the movie you see that there is something paranormal going on. Whether it's religious based or not, something paranormal is happening. The ground's moving, the corn's bending. In the book, it almost makes it seem like it's psychological. Like, did the corn just part for us?
Right.
There's Rose. Did the corn part? Did it not? Or are these kids just like really sucked in? Like they built this like crazed religion that they're just killing adults?
Yeah.
Did somebody tell them? Did they make up He Who Walks Behind the Rose? Is it a real deity? Is it a real Like it kind of, and it does so concisely because it's a short story. So I don't know. I just thought
Bert and Vicky were the worst in that story, and it was just like I don't like you. I don't want to hang out with you even for a short story. This thing is this isn't a novel. But once it gets to the part with the town stuff, it's very effective.
It
and
is,
and
yeah.
a really rollicking, good short story. Their arguments were just nasty, and I guess I don't want to hang out with nasty people.
Well, but even reading through all the other short stories in Night Shift, I feel like a lot of the characters that I've stumbled upon, which I haven't gone through directly, just reading various short stories, they all seem to be kind of nasty characters.
Yeah, Stephen King in the 70s was brutal, nihilistic, and had very little love for humanity, characters. Women aren't treated particularly well. Carrie notwithstanding. It's like, yeah, he had a strong woman in there, and then maybe Mother Abigail, I guess. But other than that, like, King is pretty nasty to his female characters in a lot of stories. I'm just like, is this your dark side, dude? Like, I'm like, what's going on here? That also makes me uncomfortable. Just like, is this like a reflection of like what's going on in his marriage at the time? Like, is it just like him imagining this happening in his marriage?
Maybe this is how he gets all of his aggression out. Like, he's just you didn't make me breakfast this morning. I'm gonna.
It still feels really gross, though. I just don't know. It just
true.
doesn't feel very healthy. Like, I don't know. But anyway, those were our thoughts on the 1984 Children of the Corn movie. And here's your clue for the next film that we'll be covering in our kind of unofficial Adaptation Month.
Clucifer here. Your clue for the next film is it's alive.
Thanks, Clucifer. If you think you know what we'll be reviewing next, let us know in the comments. For Library Grindhouse, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Leah.
And we will see you Friday for our next review episode.
Bye.